Welcome to the month of August, and I will be teaching on the topic Mended. I'll be discussing the topic Mended. Let's put a bit of storytelling to this. I really hope I'm able to do that because I'm not so good a storyteller. So imagine a situation where we have a young child, and this young individual was given birth to in a very humble family, who lived in the remotest of areas one could think of, and he grew up with little to no availability of the basic amenities, and the environment as well as the surrounding was such that it harbored several toxic, toxic and negative behaviors and patterns. And this child was parented by poorly informed and poorly educated individuals who were barely literate enough to be able to even communicate. However, they wanted this child to be all they couldn't be, and so they poured so much of effort into transforming the child. But the society, the environment of the child exposed this child to several toxins, in behavior, in practice, in activities, hooliganism, vandalism, promiscuity, all of that. And from childhood to adulthood, this child has waded through the storms of all of these negativities, drowning the mind of the child and hampering the behavior of the child. So the child has been involved in a couple of activities, even more than a couple of activities, that have made the child's character questionable. And this child right now is faced with reality of life, most likely consequence. And if the child is no longer a child, if I must add, he is in the university, he's a graduate, he's working now, he's above 24, 25, she's above 30, and reality is dawning on this individual. Maybe right now, the child now is also a parent, and with exposure and the evolution of time, reality is dawning on the individual that something is wrong. There is a major character flaw. Maybe they had a preacher, maybe they had a moral instructor, someone who was able to run an x-ray on the weight of their soul and accurately diagnose that they are broken on the inside as a result of the abuse they suffered from the childhood or the early teenage days, as a result of the verbal abuse, the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, the introduction to horrible, horrible things we would not wish a young child to go through. And now it has become a part and parcel of their reality. Is it possible for this child, now an adult, to become a better person? I know many of us will say yes, but the question is, how often are we taught the how to the yes? Because we believe anybody can change. We believe any individual can be transformed. That's why we have rehabilitation centers. We believe stories can turn around. We believe situations can move on to become better. We believe people can quit bad behaviors and embody good and godly characters. We believe the question is how. Because that's the question for the one who is struggling. That's the question for the one who is paying. That's the question for the one who is trying to be better than what they used to be. That's the question for the one who used to do a good thing but has no ability to do it. That's the question for one who wants to genuinely be honest. But all the wiring and configurations of the brain and his or her anatomy is to tell lies, is to cut corners, is to be cunning in dealing. How do these individuals change from brokenness to wholeness? And that is why I titled the teaching Mended. Now, the word mended simply means to free from fault, to free from fault or defects. Now, it's so beautiful because The word there is not free from faults or defect. To be mended doesn't mean free from faults or defect. To be mended means to free, to free. And that CO there is a action, is communicating an action to free, meaning something takes away, comes to remove the fault or the defect. And you see, this is what every individual who is at a state of brokenness does not realize. I know they told you you can change, but I submit to you that your ability to change is not within you. The willingness is all you carry, but willingness is not all there is for transformation to occur. For transformation to occur, first we must have a vision of what we intend to be transformed into. Then we must be willing. But willingness in itself needs to be deployed in a line, needs to be directed towards something. So you must be willing to undertake certain actions and activities. Yes. You must be willing to submit to certain rules and regulations. You must be willing to learn anew. I know you've been told you can't teach an old dog a new trick, but if an old dog will want to learn a new trick, then an old dog must be willing to learn the tenets that gives him or gives it the new trick. Because what we don't understand is over time, you've been used to a particular kind of behavior. Now, your human mind, the human brain, it functions in three levels of consciousness. There is the conscious realm, there is the subconscious, and there is the unconscious. What you have been used to over a period of time does not dwell in your consciousness or your subconsciousness. It resides in your unconsciousness, whereby you are able to act out such knowledge without so much deliberateness in doing it. So take, for instance, a typical example is responding to your name. You are too used to your name that you do not need to know your name to respond to your name. You don't need a conscious mental awareness of your name to hear your name and respond to it. You don't need a conscious mental awareness to hear the voice of a person you have grown long with to respond to it. You know when your father's voice goes out. You know when your mother's voice goes, you can recognize the hooting of your father's car because of the constancy of exposure to it. And so your brain no longer needs an active reminder or an active trigger to call to mind. This is for a healthy mind. If your mind does not function, it's every time they call your name, you have to try and remember is your name. Please go see a psychiatrist or psychologist, somebody that does something with mental health, brain wahala. Yeah, if you are needing conscious effort to be recalling plenty things, back to my conversation. So this is for those who are normal, right? If you're not normal, yeah, you can listen but consult a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or get to the hospital. It's not supposed to be. So like I was saying, you have all of those attitudes, behaviors residing in the unconscious realm. That's where I was going with that explanation. And because they stay in the unconscious realm, you do those things by default without much effort or thought to it. You react in such ways without effort or thought. And even though that is not what you want to do, you must come to the point of admittance that you realize that is all your body knows. That is all your mind knows. That is all the knowledge contained within your body system. And so to be mended or to experience mending is to subject yourself to a process that frees you from fault and or defects. And why is this necessary? Because we live in a generation where independence and self-sufficiency has been exaggerated. And the problem with that is you cannot survive life alone. The Lone Rangers never live or last long. And you can never be so self-aware that you know the totality of yourself. You can really never be so self-aware that you know the totality of yourself. I like the way a particular man puts it. It says the degree to which we are enabled is the degree to which we are disabled. Or in that you have 180 vision, but you require 360 vision. You just have two hands which can only move in a particular direction of things. Your hands can't do anything effectively tilted to your back. There's almost, you can only move forward. Your whole body at the back is disadvantaged because it doesn't have any enabler to view whatsoever is going on at the back. So to the degree we are enabled is the degree we are disabled. You are not able to effectively see the problem. You can end up realizing it, but realizations are not powerful in themselves, except we begin to inculcate and undergo new processes and new procedures that correct our flaws and defects. And I dare submit to you that behavioral modification has been as old as time. It is all over scripture and scriptures. It is all over history. It is all over the history of human existence. We have seen people transform their behaviors, their patterns from extremely worse and seemingly irredeemable positions to blossoming beauties and thriving goodness. You can also repair that brokenness in your soul. And I dare submit to you, if the totality of your being is broken, you are not irredeemable. You are not beyond redemption. You are not beyond mending. So, contrary to the late president Nnamdi Azikiwe, who says a broken bottle has no possibility to be mended, a broken bottle has no putting together, has no mequatism, like I said in the earlier video, you have mequatism. You can be mended. But what does it now mean? What does mending entail? I'm going to be giving us a couple of gems. I'm looking at my notes because I couldn't put all of these ones in my head. I'm looking at my notes, and so I'm going to be giving us more than a couple of things actually. I'm going to be giving us about 4, 5, or wherever I get tired of sharing the knowledge on this one. What does it mean to be mended, or what are the processes involved in mending? The first thing is reformation. You see, to remove a flaw or a defect would require you tweaking the form of what already exists. So for us to take away, or for you to successfully rid yourself of bad characters, of bad behaviors, of issues, of problematic lifestyle, you would have to lose the certainty you currently have, the predictability of yourself that you currently are comfortable with. What I mean by that is, I can say this is what I will do, I can say this is what I will do as a wrong person. Now, if I see this thing, I'll do this. That's something you could do in your weaknesses that you already embodied. Now you want to build them into strengths. You cannot keep saying this is who you are. There's going to be a reformation. We're going to be taking out things that you have already accepted as yourself and take them away from you, and that would leave a vacuum, and we would have to fill up that vacuum with something else that would likely give a new shape to the you that we currently know. So the you we currently know will now become the you used to be, whilst the you we reform will be the you currently are. And that's the thing about reformation. The problem, or the thing about reformation is it comes and it begins to take away the things you're comfortable with. It begins to swap aspects of your life, behaviors, patterns, activities, actions, words, and lifestyle patterns. Your style, your appearance begins to touch all of the very core things, seemingly noticeable and seemingly unnoticeable. Every aspect of you begins to feel it, because when we begin to reform, everything begins to change location. Everything begins to change formation. Everything begins to take up a new appearance. So being mended requires a reformation, the changing of your form, the changing of the persona. And how do we reform? We reform by knowledge. We reform by knowledge. We reform by knowledge. Knowledge. You learn anew. What you think you've known before, you know again. You go in search of the knowledge in the light of what you want to now become, in the light of the aspects you want to now embody. That is how you reform. You reform by knowledge. Number 2 is to correct, or what I say, I put it here is correction. Now, you see, the difference between reformation and correction is that reformation changes the core of the being, a form, changes the personality, the characters, the traits, the belief system, the principles, the values, the knowledge of what to do and what not to do, the guiding laws of the human mind, everything that builds a constraint within your human person. That's what reformation does. The patterns with which you interpret your logicality, reformation handles that. But correction is not really a reformation. Correction is a redirection. So right now that we have learned anew, correction comes to begin to channel action in a new light. Correction comes to begin to channel action in a new path. Correction comes to begin to tilt you into another order. You know, it's like when you do an assignment back then in school, primary, secondary, and you fail the assignment. When they come to do the assignment correction in class, they don't change the questions to correct it. They use the very same questions and help you identify where you missed it in action and show you what step you could have taken. And that's what correction is. Correction is not changing what has already come into place. However, we cannot correct you if we've not reformed you. Yeah, you have to take that one in. We cannot correct you if we're trying to repair a brokenness of person. You cannot be corrected if you've not been reformed. We can't try to stop the prostitute from prostituting if we've not first of all changed the prostitute from being a prostitute. You can't say, oh, stop sleeping with men for money, stop sleeping with women for money, if you've not first of all removed the appetite of sleeping with people. So this is the problem with mending that we have. We're trying to correct actions whilst the mind of who we're correcting is only used to and filled up with the errors, and there are no new knowledge there. And so we first of all have to change character before we can change action. We first of all have to amend and restructure personas, personalities, before we can tackle behavior manifest forms. Behavior manifest forms. This is the second thing in mending. In mending, we reform, we correct, and in correction, we're not changing form anymore. We're changing applications of the form. The next thing is to repair. So you see, when it comes to mending, not everything requires a repairing. Because you see, when it comes to repairs, we're not changing the form. We're getting something to work again. So some persons really do not need a reformation. Some persons do not need a correction. Some humans, what you need is repair. And what is repair? Oh, I have a wristwatch. And I was using this wristwatch till suddenly it stopped working. So I take it to the wristwatch technician, and he opens it and it says the battery is dead. The engine, something has gone wrong with the engine. He doesn't give a brand new wristwatch, he replaces the engine. Same engine, just a new one. Same battery, just the one that has life in it. And he puts it right in. And the same old wristwatch begins to walk like it was brand new. Oh, it was just the wristbands of the watch that got snapped. He removes it and carefully replaces the hook and the wristband. And I'm having the same old wristwatch like it's brand new. You see, the problem is that many of us don't know that what we actually actively need is a repair. Some of us are not in need of reformation or correction. We just need to refuel ourselves. We need to get to a point where we ventilate. We've been working and overworking, and because we're overworking, we've not been able to refresh ourselves. We've not been able to rest. We're beginning to manifest wrong behaviors. And over time, growing up, childhood, the responsibilities of upbringing, and then you being swamped into academic activities as a student, as a youth, you come out and then the pressure of becoming independent and all of that, and you've really never had time to sit away from the pressures of life and be with yourself. You need a repair. And that's why this message is coming to you. The next form in mending is to improve. So you see, this is a different class of individuals, right? These are persons who have gained mastery at a level, and they become ritualistic and religious in their practices, such that even though these things don't work, there's a rigidity they have embodied, and so they are not able to progress, but they keep going secularly. The problem of the secular oscillators is that they keep everyone in secular motion rather than allowing people advance from them. And so when you have such persons as leaders, they really do not need an overhaul. They just need to learn something new to what they already know. They need to expand the capacity of their knowledge. They need to expand their paradigm and take on new knowledge and improve on what they've been doing. I mean, there are many ways, easier ways to do so many things right now. Why do you want to do it the way your great-grandfather has been doing it, and your grandfather did it, and then your father did it, and now you? Why can't you change? Yeah, those are the people you also need mended to improve upon what you've been doing. Processes evolve. Technologies are evolving. New things are coming. You can learn to do things smarter. It doesn't need to be difficult to prove it's hard work. It doesn't need to be difficult to prove it's hard work. And so in mending, especially in character, in a person as an individual, improvement is one of the other ways. Another is to strengthen. So you see, when a building needs renovation, some aspects have begun to fall off and all. We are not really removing anything. We come back to reinforce pillars. We come back to reinforce the block arrangements and the walls and all those things. It strengthening it so that it can take on or it can function for a longer period of time. And that's what mending is also. Another process in you becoming better is to strengthen what you already have. Some of us know things, but we don't know it strong enough. Some of us have principles, but we don't embody those principles strong enough. You are supposed to work those muscles out for them to produce results. And we only strengthen things by exercising them, by adding and exercising them, utilizing them. So some of us are having issues not because we don't know the right things to do, but because we've not practiced them long enough. We've not practiced them long enough. And you see, such individuals, the issue here is not learning because every time you attend that conference, every time you attend the seminar, every time you sit before that counselor, you can almost conclude what they're about to say, but yet you're not doing it. It's because you've not put to practice what you've inculcated. So the advice to those ones is act. Act. Oh, this is where the perfection is falling. They're trying not to make a mistake. They want their first strike to be the only strike and to be the bull strike. No, you can't strike the bull's eye always at once. You could, but it's not always a possibility. It's not always a possibility. So what are you going to do? You're going to sit in your head and be glorifying knowledge without putting it into action. However, I hope you know. We only know that you know when we see you do what you claim to know. We only know that you know when we see you do what you claim to know. And I think I got to the final one. I said reformation, correction, repair, improvement, strengthening, and the last aspect of mending is to restore. To restore. You see, I don't know if you've ever had a device or something and one aspect of it fell off. And so the device is still working. But because a typical example would be like a calculator, because one particular button left, we can't use that particular function. The function is not bad. We just need to restore that which can make us use the function key. Like your keyboard, when you lose that space bar key, and then you can't function with that any longer. When restoring brings lost things back to place. So I used to be a kind person, but this and this happened to me, and so you lost your kindness. You now malfunction. Restore kindness to yourself. Because you don't realize that we only do to others what we do to ourselves. Really. Really, guys. It's it's never beyond that. You're always doing to others what you do to you. If you are if you as someone who says, oh, you care for yourself so much, observe the things you likely used to care for yourself, and maybe you don't care for others. Observe the things you likely used to care for others. They're actually injurious. You're just deceived. You can only be genuine because you are a genuine person. Everything that fakes it will end up being caught. No matter how long they pretend that pretentiousness has an expiration date. And guys, you deserve wholeness, renewalness, and vitality of your soul. You deserve a mind free from pain, from the hustle, from the pressure, from the fears, the anxieties, and the worries. You deserve a mind free from the memories of hurt. You deserve a mind free from the crippling effects of hurtful experiences you've had to survive. You deserve a being whole and fully functional. You deserve that for yourself before other individuals. So why not make a decision today to be mended? Why not take a decision today to be mended? What's it going to cost? What's it going to cost you to heal? To go for counseling. Therapy is overrated. Therapy just means treatment. But we've not even diagnosed you yet. We're saying go for treatment. So why not go for basic counseling? Why not just talk to someone? What would it cost you to do it regardless of your fear? What will it cost you to be mended? Is the trouble you're going through in life worth it? I don't think so. I don't think so. I want to leave you with this thought. I've told you the how now. To reform, to correct, to repair, to improve, to strengthen, to restore. This is how you mend brokenness. This is how you bring together, things that have been taken. Because you see, you are not a bottle, so you can be mekwatad. I don't know why I like mekwatadism so much. Till I come your way next month, I'm famous for it. Chijioke, remember, you're not the bottle. So even though you're broken, we can fix you back. We can take care of yourself. I love you.